There's always been an innovation economy, and JPMorgan has an entire business dedicated to helping it thrive. By bringing together founders, startups, investors, and ideas, JPMorgan's commercial bank helps empower thousands of high-growth companies that are shaping the present and the future. With tailored banking solutions and a global business network, JPMorgan helps innovators scale for today and tomorrow. Visit jpmorgan.com/startups to find out how they can help you build your future. Products and services of JPMorgan Chase & Company and its affiliates are subject to availability, eligibility, and applicable terms and policies. JPMorgan Chase Bank, N.A., member FDIC. Hey everyone, this is TechCrunch Live. I'm Matt Burns, and on TechCrunch Live, we help founders build better venture-backed businesses. And since I took over TechCrunch Live over a year ago, we've had a huge range of guests, from startups doing gene editing technology to mobility startups to fintech companies. But I don't cover any of those. I cover cannabis startups at TechCrunch. And so today I'm pretty happy we're taking a trip to a weed dispensary. You know, there are very few opportunities in startup land like there is in cannabis. And at today's event, I have two of the best placed individuals to talk about this market. Ross Lipson co-founded Dutchie in 2017 and has since raised $600 million for the company, and including from Casa Verde Ventures, who are, you know, Snoop Dogg's VC fund. I'm taking audience questions today, so if you are, please log into Grip and put your questions in there. This is a tough market. I cover cannabis for TechCrunch, and the market is in a constant state of flux. There are a lot of topics we can talk about, but for today's conversation, I'm going to focus on fundraising and market opportunities, you know, where to go for capital, and what cannabis VCs are currently funding and what they're not. But let's talk about Dutchie first. The company is on a tear lately. Going back to July, the company has released a totally brand new cannabis dispensary point of sale system, a payment solution, and then just earlier today, about 2 hours ago, an insurance product for all segments of the cannabis industry. All this is great, but I want Ross to tell us the secrets on raising money for cannabis companies. Next week, TechCrunch Live is taking a break. We're going to be at TechCrunch Disrupt in the Bay Area. And if you're around, I hope you can join us. It's at the Moscone Center in downtown San Francisco. I'm hosting the Startup Battlefield competition. And if you're around, ping me on Twitter. I can buy you a coffee on TechCrunch's credit card. But first, we need to talk about cannabis and Dutchie. So, Karan, I need to start with you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I want to get your reaction. This happened just recently, the Biden's pardon with all the different marijuana convictions. How does that change the market for startups?
I think, you know, in general, when we have such a momentous announcement, you know, from the U.S. government and the president of the United States, it's directionally incredibly positive, right? So on one hand, obviously, just the fact that you're, you know, acknowledging the need for, you know, changes to be made to our system, and, you know, partnering somewhere between 5,000 to 6,000 folks who on a federal level are being, you know, held on minor possession charges. I think that's just incredible. From a social equity perspective, is huge. Mm-hmm. As far as it goes for startups, again, I think if we're drawing attention to this space, and if, you know, he's able to influence the rescheduling or descheduling of cannabis, which was one of the, you know, one of the 3 points that was made clear in his statement. I think that's huge. So like anything, you know, we're going to wait for execution and see how these things actually play out. But again, after Biden got elected, you know, with campaign promises to do something on cannabis, finally to see that after 2.5 years is really exciting.
Ross, what did you think about it?
Yeah, it's a great time for the cannabis industry, and to hear the president of all people speak positively. I want to piggyback on what Karan said. Tons of momentum in the space. It really just shines a light on the opportunity that this space has. It brings more attention to it in a positive manner, which we all need. And, you know, I'll say, like, these times are tough right now, not just in cannabis. The entire, like, macroeconomic view right now, it's not great. And cannabis has its fair share of headwinds, and has since the beginning. We're dealing with a nascent industry that deals with struggles that all nascent industries would, coupled with state-by-state regulations that are slower moving than many of us anticipated. So to inject that positivity and that momentum, it opens up a lot of people's eyes, and it shines a bright positive light that gives us all more access. So from startups to companies of Dutchie's size and anybody in between, whether you're an operator, whether you're in the retail environment, whether you're an investor like Karan, or even a reporter like yourself, Matt, it's positivity that we're injecting in a space that deserves it. Because I think what we're all finding, the further this space continues on and develops, we're starting to see the health and wellness benefits and other benefits that this space can and does bring. So exposing that and giving more people access to that. 2 thumbs up. We're all for it. It's great.
2 thumbs up. I like it. All right, Karan, back to you then. So at Casa Verde Ventures, you guys invested in Dutchie several times. What brought you to that investment?
Yeah, so, we've been active since 2016, with a focus on the cannabis space. And, when we first started, we were looking exclusively at the ancillary businesses that support cannabis. So, a bit of what people refer to as the picks and shovels methodology, looking at technology and services that focused on this growing industry. We met Ross, fairly early in his journey. We were the first investor into Dutchie. But what was super interesting, and I think what people probably forget now that Dutchie has such significant market share, is that they were by no means the first mover in the space. There were other companies doing what Dutchie did, and we had spoken to a lot of them, had looked at a bunch of them. But clearly there was an approach and a experience set that we found incredibly exciting with Ross and his brother Zach, the co-founders, that got us really motivated. So we were the first institutional check and helped them raise out the rest of their seed round in 2018. 17.
Well, started in 17. We connected in 17. And
we invested in 18. Yeah. I got that right.
Yeah. It's been some time.
Ross, what do you think that approach was? What do you think won him over? I'm going to make you talk about yourself in front of him.
So if you're giving me permission to, then I will. Now, so there's a lot there. So one, as an operator, there's a lot of, relatively speaking, there are a lot of investors out there. And we had spoken with a few, and I found that I quickly connected with Karan and his partner, Yoni, at Casa Verde. And it was 2 things. It was a personal connection and the business connection. We personally saw eye to eye on how we view not just the space, but the world and business included. And further, genuinely passionate about the mission behind the industry. So we weren't stuck and kind of narrow-minded on specific features or product market fit or metrics or anything. It was a shared macro level enthusiastic view on this industry as a whole in the early innings that it was in, the first inning, I would argue, the future of it, the opportunity there, but the mission behind it. And it was genuine and you could feel that. And it was quick for me to realize, because, something I talk about is when you're connecting, an investor is not just somebody that gives you money. As somebody now we've raised our seed through our D round. It's been 5 rounds of funding. It's been 5 + 6 years in the business. And although we've found a lot of success in this business, there are tons of highs and lows, and the pendulum swings evenly. As high as the highs are, is as low as the lows are. No matter who you are, you can't escape it. And it's a very intimate setting that you have with your investors. And the smooth sailing and the highs, that's the easy part. No pun intended. The lows is where things are, the choppy waters is where you got to really maneuver and navigate. And I'll say, not to sound sappy, but being a founder or being a CEO, it's very lonely. And it's very, very lonely when the times are rough. And when you have somebody like Karan or Yoni at Casa Verde and a few of our other investors that you can lock arms with during the tough times and know that you're there for each other, think clearly with 20/20 vision, which is not easy to do when you're stressed and under the gun. Those are the times where you breathe that allow you to succeed and navigate through those rough patches. And I saw that really early on, genuinely, with Karan and his partner Yoni, and it was a no-brainer for us to move forward with Casa Verde.
Well, I want to take a look at your pitch deck. We only have 30 minutes, and there's lots to cover here, so let's bring this up. And this is slide number 3 from your Series B pitch deck. Do you know about what year this was?
I believe it was 2020.
Okay, so 2020, you're forecasting out. Is this data still relevant?
Yeah, and the industry being nascent, we don't have too much data to rely on. However, there's been many companies that have brought predictability to the industry, so it's directionally accurate. Certain areas we've beat, certain areas the industry's missed, but more or less it's correct still.
And then Karan, so when you're looking at this as an investor, and you're seeing this market go up, how do you take a look at this from your view?
So look, I mean, I think that this first page is definitely like it's the thesis for what we do as a fund entirely, right? Which is that, hey, there's this incredible industry that we've all known about forever. It's exploding. It's becoming legal. It's becoming global, and we want, we want to capture, value in it. So this part, obviously, for us, we've been involved since the beginning. It's the thesis of our fund, but it's kind of like, especially one of the things that Dutchie has done and we've done together, is bring in a bunch of participants who are not like us, right? We're not just solely focused or largely focused on the cannabis industry. So it's important to start setting the stage about how big this opportunity truly is, before even getting into, let's actually talk about what Dutchie does. So I think qualifying that right away, gets investors pretty excited, especially those who may not have, as close a link to what's happening like we do at Casa Verde.
Ross, did you find raising money before COVID has been different than after COVID?
So I think we're a unique case because we were an e-commerce tool at that time. We were an e-commerce tool in the cannabis space, and unique to us because cannabis was deemed essential when COVID first hit. If we remember back 2.5 years, seems like a lifetime ago, certain industries were shut down completely. Certain industries were deemed essential. Cannabis, fortunately, was one of those that was deemed essential. However, there was a lot of band-aids at the state level and even just dispensary discretion to say, we need to double down on contactless ordering, which was e-commerce. So we were, I think like lucky as hard work meets opportunity. It's a saying I'm stealing from somebody else, but I think it shows true. And we were lucky in that sense. We had worked very, very, very hard. And set a product that was, best in class and robust feature set that was finding success and product market fit with our dispensaries, our customer base. We were in the right industry. That's lucky. And then the opportunity hit, where it was, that hard work met the opportunity of it's deemed essential. Everybody's looking for an e-commerce tool, and there we were. So to answer your question, for us, it wasn't much different. It was similar. If anything, we had some tailwinds with the pandemic. So times of raising during COVID, we really were seeing a surge in growth. So we our investors saw that.
Yeah, Karan. So when you're looking at it, how has companies changed when they're pitching you?
How has the pitch changed?
How has the pitch changed after COVID? Have you seen any differences?
No, I wouldn't say so. Look, For us, obviously, cannabis being deemed essential and I'd say the thing that's been a constant change, and COVID maybe accelerated it, is the level of talent has continued to improve that is coming into the industry to set up businesses. Not just coming in as entrepreneurs, coming in as talent. Ross can kind of speak to the kind of folks that a company like Dutchie is now attracting that would have been a lot more difficult at the start or even pre-COVID. So I think COVID has just been a key accelerant, and we've seen the quality of entrepreneurs and businesses improve, and I think that's been a huge positive.
Well, let's take a look at the next slide. And now Tam here, that this has always been fun for me with cannabis because the market is so segmented and divided between the states. How would you recommend that companies present this?
Yeah, so I think that even taking a step back, but answering the question, there's a few core tenets to a strong pitch. And I think that first slide shows, the TAM. Let's see, back of the napkin, what's the opportunity? An investor wants to know, could they 10X, right? Is this a big enough opportunity where I could invest a lot of money, follow on money, and still see a 10X opportunity? Can we build $1 billion+ business out of it? The second one is really understanding how we fit into the TAM, which is this business, and what product market fit are we seeing? What traction are we seeing? So where we showed TAM, SAM, SUM, sounds fun to say it, but it's showing the total addressable market. How big is the cannabis market in its entirety? At the time, it was $21.5 billion. relatively speaking, decent size. Then we're going to look at like serviceable addressable market, and then the serviceable attainable market. So how much of that market though can we reach? At the time we were just e-commerce. So we can't say that we can reach the entire market because somebody going in store is not shopping online. And then understanding the obtainable market to show really like, what we can obtain right now with our current product. So this starts to show the traction that we have and the traction that we can kind of see in its full, maturation, if you will, if we've saturated that market. So
I look at a lot of pitch decks. I'm sure that all of you do as well. And I rarely see it broken down into 3 segments. Most companies just start with the TAM and they leave it there. Why did you feel it was important to break it down?
I think one of the things that I've learned, in fact, something that I need to continue to work on, and I've been told this by investors that I value the hell out of their opinion, excuse my language, is intellectual honesty. I think something to check at the door for most, if not all CEOs or founders is we are biased, we are optimistic, we are confident, or else we wouldn't be where we're at. Those things could play against you if you start to come off too salesy. And I always do. It's something that I need to work on constantly, and I'll be saying that to the day I die probably. And this is starting to actually bring a little bit more reality to it, because we're not going to own the entire market. It's starting to show, okay, but really, where's your traction and where can you really fit into it? So, I think that for us, not just showing TAM, because I think TAM is, to be honest, it's important to know, but it's kind of a false sense of the opportunity. Right. Nobody sees, I don't think anybody out there has seen 100% of a TAM. So it's now like reining in a little bit more reality, being a little bit more humble to say, okay, that is the TAM. That's great to know. And that's like maybe, a foundation of this, but let's talk about what we actually could obtain, what we can actually service right now. And that starts to bring a little bit more reality into it. And you'll see 21 turns into 6.9 billion, which is, in Karan's eyes, I'll speak for him, a huge opportunity that's worth betting on, pretty big. So it's really just bringing a little bit more reality and intellectual honesty to the equation.
But I'll also say that it opens the door to what eventually actually happened, right? Which is that, hey, actually, there's more that we could address and more that we could do as a firm. And so it's important to show that like there is this gigantic market. Maybe the current serviceable portion is 6.9 billion, but as and when in the future we expand services and can do more, there's a much bigger pie. And I think, again, this is at a really unique inflection point where 10-11% is very good. It's excellent, but there's so much left to capture. So you kind of get both sides of it, right? Like shows you can actually do something, you have traction, you captured real market share, but there's, multiples to go, which again, as an investor is exciting to see.
I've also often wondered on these things with cannabis startups, with the deschedulization of cannabis, how does that affect your TAM?
Yeah, I mean, I could start to speak to it. Karan, you could add in here. So I think the biggest thing with descheduling is it opens up the doors to more. So there's 2 sides. There's the supply side of TAM, which in our case is the dispensary count, but more importantly to this and TAM, it's the consumer side. I think the stigma still unfortunately reigns true and is very, very prevalent in cannabis. Anybody watching this could say that they likely walk into a friend's or their house and see a bottle of alcohol on the kitchen counter and don't think anything of it other than maybe that's a beautiful bottle. I can promise you most people, if not almost everybody on this call, will not walk into their house or a friend's house and see a jar of cannabis on the kitchen counter. And the question you have to ask yourself is why? Cannabis has more benefits. It's, it's a natural thing. It's now legal at state level. Over 70% of Americans are for it. The Gallup says so. I think that descheduling it helps continue to move the industry forward by destigmatizing this industry, which opens up the doors for more people to be curious and try cannabis or to understand it a little bit more. And therefore, then they'll see the health and wellness benefits it brings them and start consuming in a healthy way. So I think that descheduling it, to answer your question, definitely opens up the TAM significantly from a consumer spend standpoint.
Should startups plan for descheduling or should they plan for now?
I think, it's a good question. We personally like to take a more conservative approach so we can always set ourselves up for success, not failure. I don't think we should ever plan. Hope is not a plan. It's been said before. I agree with that. And I'm not a politician, and I'm not too deep on how the government works, but I know things move slow because there's a lot of things to look out for when making big changes that impact tons of folks. So I don't think it's right to plan for it. I think it's best to plan for right now.
And Karan?
Yeah, no, I think, we'd be lying if we said that, in the long-term view of this industry and what's happening, we're anticipating that it's a when question, not an if question. However, again, we view that as like a great surprise to the upside, right? You make the investment, you make the bet, assuming that we don't have a timeline for legalization, but as and when it happens, you're well set up to take advantage of it and hopefully be the benefactor of such changes in legislation. So I think we view it a very similar way, and especially when we're assessing new investments.
Right. Well, let's look at the next slide. Talk us through this. This is interesting for outsiders.
Yeah, so I think that next tenet, as I was speaking earlier, is let's show who we are and how the industry is receiving us. Let's show that we have the start of what would be called either traction or product market fit. And this is a statement piece. This is a nice visualization with numbers on the left side, metrics to say, hey, at the time we're in 25% of all dispensaries in North America. That's 1,300 dispensaries out of 5,200. You can't deny that. That's a factual number to show, hey, there are 25, a quarter of the dispensaries, 1 in 4 out there, are utilizing our product and service, and we're retaining them. They're seeing value in it. Sure. And it's important to take an objective stance to this stuff because, again, founders and CEOs, we're confident, we're biased, we're optimistic, and we need to show the investors an objective look instead of me just saying, hey, Current, we're killing it out there. We have a ton of dispensaries. They're all loving it. Talk to them. This is a slide that really, really helps visualize our penetration into the market.
Karan, do you think this works if you zoom in on a state? Let's say you take Michigan and you zoom in and you show your dispensaries there. Does that have the same impact?
Sure. I mean, if you really wanted to get deep on a state by state level, but I think again, this does a lot of things both like explicitly and subtly, right? Which is one, what's probably not clear is like, basically they're hitting every legal market in cannabis, right? Where there's adult use sales. So again, as a cannabis investor, that it's exciting. It also shows you in the same manner, sort of what is available, right? The opportunity as more and more states legalize. Now, again, this is 2 years old and already stale, right? Because that's how quickly the industry is moving. So it's actually really fun to look at these. But then again, on the left, right, 25% of all dispensaries in North America are using the product. I mean, that's massive. It shows real penetration. So yeah, I don't think it's as irrelevant, especially for what this conversation is, both in this context and with investors, to really dive into it. But as Ross will tell you, this is your opening to a new investor, right? Let me get this sort of set the stage for what we are. But behind all of this are incredibly dense data-filled data rooms, where you can actually dive into Michigan, every dispensary, how much order flow is going through each. I mean, everything should be there, especially for people who are doing, deep diligence, which we all do. So, but I think for what this slide is supposed to provide, this is perfect.
I guess I'm wondering what a small cannabis startup does to show traction. What are some good goalposts for them?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll jump in really quickly, Ross, and let you fill it in. But when we invested, Dutchie was only penetrating in Oregon. That was it. They had not moved outside. But what was incredible to us was completely bootstrapped in a very short amount of time. Ross had 50 dispensaries on the platform without raising any money, so it showed us right away, like, oh wow, there's something can be done here. Now 50, relative to the 1,300 here is nothing, but at the stage that Dutchie was at the time, it was incredibly impressive, and that was definitely one of the key factors that got us excited about the business. But Ross, sorry, I'll let you finish.
No, it's a great point, and to say a couple other things, every stage of capital or every phase of the business is a different pitch, right? So in the earliest days of the seed, you're really pitching, here's this huge opportunity, the first few slides. This is why I'm positioned to do this. Let's talk about my background. Let's talk about my passion. Let's talk about the mission, and see if the investor subscribes to what I'm saying. And then now let's talk about what is our approach. Right. So let's talk about the product. Let's talk about the pain points that we're going to solve for the customer. And then if you do have traction, because you see a lot of rounds going out right now pre-product. So that's a different pitch. Now, we went out, to Karan's point, we already had 50 dispensaries. So we had the beginning of traction. So, okay, let's show that traction. Let's show some customer testimonials. There's nothing better than hearing from the customer themselves. And then another way of doing it when you get a little further is a cohort analysis. And I think that is the data that, so when Karan was talking about what's filled behind the scenes in the data room, I hope anybody that's listening doesn't think that these slides get a deal done. It never will. And if it does, you're probably working with the wrong investor, just to be frank. Sorry to say, but it's true. You want equally an investor that is smart, that looked at the business the right way, ran the right due diligence, threw a bunch of rocks at you. That's healthy. That's a healthy relationship, and you're going to set yourself up for success there. So we like to slice up cohorts, and that's what investors are doing. And anytime you can do their job, make their job a little easier, or do some of the legwork for them, I'm sure Karan would say, and other investors, like, thank you. That's helpful. And it shows that we're aligned and we're thinking the same way. So what I'm meaning by a cohort is understanding segments of the customer base. Like, let's look at the dispensaries we signed. So let's look at those 50 dispensaries and how are they progressing month over month since they've been on the platform? Because if you sign, there's a term about a leaky bucket. If you have a leaky bucket, meaning you're signing dispensaries, great, but they're leaving you after a few months. That's not great. That's terrible. You'd rather have not signed them at all. So those cohorts are going to show that the dispensary group that signed up in January, what happened to their sales in February, March, April, May, and so on. And if you're seeing that increase, that's a signal to an investor to say, oh, okay, this is really interesting. So last thing I'll say without taking up too much time is, if we're going to zoom in on a state, Michigan or Oregon or wherever it is, or even a customer segment, SMB, mid-market, enterprise, wherever you're aiming for your first set of customers, let's show the investor that these customers are not just on the platform, but they're finding objective success. Objective meaning, let's show that the data, their sales, their KPI, whatever metric they're looking, is improving over time. And that's providing real value. That's showing that we're providing value to the customer, and an investor, I believe, is going to see that and kind of light up a little bit and say, I want to invest in that.
I like all that. All that is great. I'm going to quote you on all of that and put in an article. Thank you. Karan, back to you though. So what's a good founder fit for you and Casa Verde Ventures?
Great question. So look, there's always scales of like ideal. You're never going to check off every single box, but there are some who do. I'd say Ross is like a pretty good example of that, right? The first part of that is being a serial entrepreneur. Ross had built and exited 2 businesses before launching Dutchie. That's great, right? Because again, as Ross kind of mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, like, so much of this journey is like emotional and driven by like your mental health. So having gone through starting a business and then successfully exiting as well is huge. So we love that. What you could tell from initial meetings, and you can probably tell on this call, like, Ross is a good salesman, and that's incredibly important early on when you're trying to convince companies why they need your product and why they should take a chance with you versus your competitors, et cetera. So I think in certain instances, you want to have that combination of obviously being showing you can lead in technology and sales. His past experiences were also incredibly relevant. It was in food delivery, and now we were talking about e-commerce and in cannabis. Made a ton of sense. And then, I think we felt the plan and valuation and everything else that comes in sort of deeper diligence was in our sweet spot, and we could make that bet. So I think all these elements are great, right? If you've had relevant experience, if you've started a business before, if you have the right founding team, if you're doing something that could, eventually become really ubiquitous to the industry, not just solving a problem for the short term, right? And cannabis has a lot of those because, we do not believe that e-commerce, point of sale, or any of this technology goes anywhere, even if tomorrow, cannabis is legal globally, right? We think it's going to be an important component of it, and you're building that. So I hope that helps answer, some of it. But like, I'd say,
yes,
also having a strong technical understanding of what you're building / relayed with having a focus on sales. And sometimes you don't have both. Sometimes you have one or the other. That's totally fine as well. I think Ross was really unique, and then he checked off a lot of those boxes.
Yeah, absolutely. And we only have a few minutes left here, but I really want to touch on market segments. What market segments do you think right now are overplayed and you're not investing in anymore?
That's Casa Verde.
Yes.
I wouldn't say there's any. Look, I'll give a bad example of something that we never really liked, and it has not become, a big part of it. But
Please,
again,
yes.
The cannabis industry was evolving, like cash management, literal cash, physical cash management were business ideas we saw a lot of because it was such an issue, and because dispensaries oftentimes were sitting on 6 figures or more in cash, it became a real risk. And so you could actually have businesses that would charge real percentage of physically holding cash. And we're not talking about a bank here with interest. We're talking about just taking your cash and holding it in the safe and taking, a take rate of 2 to 5%. These businesses were actually incredibly profitable, and from financial metrics were amazing, but we saw that was like not sustainable. I'd say, there's a bunch of things that of investments that sound really cool and exciting, and sometimes are beautiful as well. Home grow systems was something we saw a lot of early on. There are also things that do really well on crowdfunding platforms, because I think the people who are investing would like that themselves. We felt like there wasn't a large enough market opportunity for us to back any of those. But I got to tell you, Matt, we take a very sort of day one approach with everything we look at. Obviously, it's hard because we have biases. We've looked at so many businesses. We generically know what we like and don't like. But I encourage our team to kind of always put fresh eyes on something, because just again, and I would say this for Dutchie as well, at the time when we first invested, it was A, not obvious, and B, a bunch of people would have told us, like, there's literally 5, 10 other people who are more established, who are already present in this market. Like, why now would you make this bet, right? So what I mean to say by that is, I think lots of people had thought they'd made their e-commerce or delivery or whatever bets at that time. And we had, tangentially done the same, but this was something that was incredibly exciting and we couldn't say no to. So I would just say that, as investors, it's important to keep an open mind, even if you have biases in the back of your head saying like, oh, I don't like cash management or homegrown systems. It doesn't mean that we wouldn't look at those with fresh eyes every time.
Yeah, the cash management stuff is interesting. I've been to a couple of dispensaries that have paramilitary guards. I mean, they're everywhere, right? Like Planet 13 in Las Vegas, huge military presence. It's like
crazy.
It is crazy. But Ross, real quick, I'm going to give you the last word here. If you were starting something new right now, what would you look into for cannabis?
So, it's a great question. I think ultimately the key to any business, cannabis or any other industry, is to find the pain points of the industry and how to solve for them. And ultimately, saying the same thing in a different way, how can you provide the most value that scales the industry? And people pay for value. At the end of the day, if you look at anything you're paying for, most things, services are you're paying for value. And so I think it's really, really listening. And that goes to starting a business, that goes to where we're at still today and where we'll be forever. Because we still have to invest in new products, which is the same thing as saying a company needs to, a founder is going to start a new idea. We have to stay entrepreneurial and start new companies within our company to continue to grow this business at this scale. So like insurance, I'll use that plug. We just announced it a couple hours ago, as you mentioned. We launched Dutchie Insurance, and a lot of people are probably thinking, why the hell did you do that? You're running technology, point of sale, e-commerce, payments make sense because that's part of the embedded experience there. But insurance, like, where did that come from? Well, when you start listening to the customer's pain points and you start realizing in cannabis, for example, the insurance agencies and brokers out there, one, didn't fully understand cannabis and offer the coverage that these dispensaries needed. It's very unique and nuanced industry. Further, there's not much access to many different programs or products out there in the insurance world. So the prices, therefore, with low supply and high demand, the prices were really egregious in some areas. We found we can help save them money and provide value to the dispensary, which ultimately comes back, makes that customer, our customer, more successful. And I'll say it to be frank, which means that they can pay more money back to the service that's providing it, which is us. So ultimately, I look to just say it might be a high level statement, but I think it's true. It's to really dig deep, listen to the customer, spend time with the customer. Go in, and whoever your customer is, for us, it was a dispensary. I spent countless hours at local dispensaries. I was the annoying guy behind the counter asking, can I just watch? And most of the time they'd say, no, like, get out of here. But you got to be persistent. You got to just stand there. You got to take notes. And eventually you're going to start to see things like we all do if we open our eyes to it, that these are problems. We can come up with a solution and then scale that solution to the masses. And that's the foundation of a product, a service, or a business, I think.
You are a really good salesman. We talked about that earlier today.
I'll say, I think it just comes from, I've been told that a lot, and I always am asking myself why. It really does. It's passion. It's just, if you're genuinely passionate, as I am, about not just Dutchie, but this industry as a whole, then I think it comes across as a good salesperson. But really, it's just genuinely being honest and passionate about what you're speaking on. So thank you, though.
Yeah, always be closing, right? ABC. All right, very good. Well, that concludes this part of TechCrunch Live, and thank you so much for doing that. But you two are going to stick around and do pitch practice with us, right? Yeah.
Good.
So pitch practice is great. It's a segment that we have in TechCrunch Live where we bring entrepreneurs on, and these people were just told a few hours ago that they're going to present, so they haven't had a lot of time. But the thought here is that you should always be practicing your pitch, no matter who will listen to you. Go to the bar and pitch to them if you can. So we have two very successful people here, and then we're going to bring on our first company, Sales Stable AI. Did I say that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. All right. Well, nice to see you, and nice to have you on. You have 2 minutes to present your company, starting now.
First of all, thanks a lot for the opportunity. Sales Stable is the world's first purpose-built sales readiness platform for startups and SMBs. It takes approximately 5 months to ramp up the new sales rep, and average tenure of the sales reps is around 35% per year. Inadequate training, coaching, and support is one of the top reasons why salespeople churn. Startup and SMB leaders have limited visibility into the activity and the results of their sales reps. This is exactly why we built Sales Stable, to help leaders and the sales reps. Sales Stable helps companies kickstart their sales process by helping executives quickly onboard, ramp new sales reps, track their activities and results. We did this by providing personalized training, assessments, coaching, which expedites the sales readiness. In addition, Sales Stable provides extensive dashboard with onboarding, training, and goal tracking insights for company executives. We use AI to provide the insights to company leadership on the sales performance, lessons learned, and best practices. We're a team of founders with sales, product, and technology backgrounds who have faced this problem firsthand in our previous startups. We are going after a market valued at $2.5 billion in 2021, and is projected to reach $10 billion by 2030, growing at a CAGR of 19.7%. We currently have 45 beta customers and 250 users. The long term, we want to expand this as a marketplace that really brings together sales jobs, sales coaches, and sales content for startups and SMBs. Our goal is super simple. We want to help sales teams get ready to sell and make founders happy. Thanks a lot for this opportunity.
Sharice, that was really good. Thank you so much. Ross, can we start with you? Any feedback?
Yeah, first of all, congrats. It's awesome to hear. And having 45 customers is the start of something. That's I think one of the hardest parts. So congrats on that. I think that for overall, the pitch was great. And having a pitch in only 2 minutes, especially with not much time to prep, hats off to you. Maybe one question I would think through is, I think in raising capital or selling anything, but what you're doing right now is you're selling an investor. So you are selling something. It's storytelling, right? Like, it's all about storytelling. And I think the best stories, if you watch a movie, read a book, or hear any story, we learn about the different chapters. And I think the positioning of the chapters, which comes first, second, and third, is really important. So I don't know the answer, and there's never one real answer. So I'll give you one piece of feedback. Take everybody's feedback with a grain of salt, and do you first and foremost. So take mine with a grain of salt, because who am I? I'm just some guy that went out and got lucky and raised some capital. So that's, I guess, maybe one piece of feedback. The second are we telling the story the right way? The question I would ask is, do we first want to say why you? And you did say it. You started off right into what Sales Stable is. You may have hooked me a little bit more because I felt like I was being pitched, which is true, but I want to feel like I'm in conversation with you, is what was the personal connection you had with the problem? So when I first started reaching out to Karan, for example, let me tell you, I ran an online food ordering business. I'm super passionate about cannabis. I was standing in line the first hour of legalization and the light bulb went off. He's now like, oh, this is fun. This is cool. I'm listening now because he's telling a story that's, I hope, was a good story. So you could start off by saying what the problem is, who you are, and then what the problem is, and how then you solved it, which segues into what Sales Stable is. So that's my feedback. Overall, is awesome.
Perfect. Thanks a lot for that. It's really, thanks for that. So it's really to bring in that personalized aspect of why I'm the right person to solve this problem, and then what's the previous experience. Thank you.
That's great. Karan?
Yeah, so look, I'd say it's always going to be different. Like, rarely is this what is going to be your opportunity. Here's 2 minutes, like, go, right? I would, let me start with what was great. I'd say towards the end, you started answering some like great questions that you want in every pitch, which is, what's the total addressable market? What's the existing traction, right? Like, you heard was the first thing Ross said too, as soon as he got there. Like, that's important. You need to make sure those things are got out there. Again, this is more stylistic for me. Like, I want to have a conversation with you, and I want even the pitch to feel like that it's a conversation, right? Versus, here's a script I'm reading to tell you as much as I can in these small moments. The reality is, in these, if you really did have 2 minutes, you don't actually have to get into that many details, right? Back to kind of like the things that even Matt was pointing out when we were going through the slides, like, do you want to know how much we've done in Michigan specifically? No, it doesn't matter. Like, keep us high level, tell us why this is a big problem, tell us why you're the person to solve it. And then, we get the opportunity to sit here and go back and forth. Okay, well, that's interesting. Like, tell me more about your experience here, or, how much do people pay currently? How much will your pricing be, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I would just say, try to keep it crisp and clear. And at the end, you did say, like, in short, this is what we are trying to do. I'd say if you ever are in a situation where you have that limited time, start with that, put that in the middle, put that at the end too. Like, have your clear mission statement repeated multiple times. So when I leave it, like, I know that's what your business is doing.
Gotcha. Thank you. Probably, yeah, Matt, you are muted.
I am muted. It's like I'm new at this. Well, thank you so much. I was going to say, if you want to reapply, please reapply, and we'll have you back on the show, and you can pitch again. It was lovely.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you, Ross.
So much. Yeah. All right, great. Next up, we have Leonard from IOTIS. IOTIS. All right. I was trying to read your website URL. All right. Well, let's hear about IOTIS. You have 2 minutes starting now.
Hi, pleasure to meet you, and thank you for the invitation. Maybe a quick introduction to myself. At the beginning, my name is Leonard. I worked at venture capital and used to be a professional soccer player, and I'm now the founder and CEO of IOTIS. And IOTIS, very important, stands for IoT in sports, and we integrate sensor technology in all kind of analog sports equipment, such as soccer, golf, basketball, or cricket. Our first product is a smart and connected soccer ball, where data is being generated when you play or train, all combined with a highly gamified training app for live feedback during the training. Our go-to-market is very simple. We partner up with big sporting good brands such as Adidas, Puma, Nike, and we integrate our technology into their soccer balls. It is similar to those famous Intel Inside stickers that are on almost every Windows notebook. We want to be the IOTIS Inside sticker on almost every soccer ball. Besides licensing the hardware to the sporting good brands, we provide the operating system to onboard the athlete in our app. So our technology framework is then built in fact to scale with regard to the other sports. So there's a transfer to volleyball or golf, easily doable, and creates a lot of opportunity for us from a scale point of view. From a product stage focus, we have sold so far 5,000 soccer balls and are at the moment finding product market fit within our target group of highly ambitious soccer players. And we have raised, by the end of last year, beginning of this year, $2.5 million in our seed round from international sports and health tech investors. We are supported by a very fun team of 14 full-time employees with a proven ability to execute from companies such as Adidas, PwC, or Entrepreneur First. We are headquartered actually in good old Germany and currently with Plug and Play in Silicon Valley. We changed the way how people train and play effectively and become better faster. So the revolution in sports tech has just begun, so you can join us now. Thank you.
That was great. Leonard, are you in Germany right now?
I'm based in Palo Alto, WeWork, but normally in Sunnyvale with Plug and Play.
All right, great. Well, let's start with Karan.
Yeah, that was awesome. You had us engaged from the beginning. There's like all these tidbits that like I want to dig in on, right? I want to hear about your experience as an athlete. I want to hear how this got started. Like you left me wanting to ask a bunch of questions, and you also told us sort of, the relevant statistics on what you do. I'd say the one part that I don't think I heard, or maybe I just didn't pay attention, was, what do you do with this information? Like, what are you going to tell me? Like the tool inside the soccer ball, et cetera. What is it? How is that going to help the team, the player? What does it specifically do? Why is there like a need to have this data? Like, what's it going to fix or solve or improve? And why that's like a big enough market for it. But I would say that maybe that's meant to be in this part of the conversation. Tell me more. How does this work? Well, show me a dashboard, whatever else. But I would say you did an incredible job. That was excellent.
I agree. Ross?
Thank you.
Yeah, really, really fun to hear. Grew up as a soccer player, so it definitely resonates. I think that you have a unique story yourself. I'm going to kind of say something similar to what I said before, but I really believe it. It's really true, especially more than ever at the seed stage or at the A. The investor is betting on the founder, and the founder needs to tell the right story and grab your attention. Think this investor is being pitched every day, all day, and is seeing thousands of pitches and decks. So we need to stand out. I think you have a unique situation that you need to own and double down on, which is your story and your connection with this. You're a professional soccer player. Right when you said that, you piqued my interest. You're going to pique everybody's interest, whether they're into soccer or not. Congrats on that. You're showing more there than you probably know. It's a great interview question. And when somebody starts talking about their performance in anything, whether it's music, arts, athletic, it's showing that you know how to win. You got to the top cohort or top decile performance of a certain thing, which means you know how to win. You're driven. So I think you have a unique story yourself that you need to lean in on, and you can open up on the story a little bit more. I grew up playing like you, because you'll resonate with investors, sports. Almost everybody has a quick dabble in sports, whether they go far or not, they try it. You could speak to how you had a liking for it and the ability for it. So you doubled down on it, and you invested the early part of your life, and everything you ate, slept, breathed was soccer, right? I'm sure you don't get to where you got, which is showing this level of passion. So now, from a storytelling standpoint, I don't care if you're running a business or not, I'm into this story. I'm learning from a professional soccer player, their story of coming up. And then I think you get into the void and the pain point. Sports, everybody can resonate no matter who you are. We all want to be better at sports. Whether you're into sports or not, when you try, you want to be better. It could be like pickleball in America, where anybody and everybody picks up a paddle because it's not that hard and it's fun. Everybody doesn't have to be a professional soccer player, because most people can't make it, but everybody wants to do something, athletic, not everybody, but most people. So you'll resonate there. And I think if you say so everybody, something I learned as a professional soccer player is it's all about getting better, improving at your own pace, right? So now it opens up to the masses. And that's when you saw a huge void in the sports world, because now you've connected on your story and who you are and why you. Everybody knows not everybody, but the TAM of sports is big enough to know it. And now you're pinpointing this huge void that I don't think anybody has tackled. And then you go into it, which is what you did. It's a sensor that goes into the soccer ball that gives us data to improve. And then I would echo what Karan said. How does this data come back, and how is it improving the performance of the individual athlete? Overall, I thought it was awesome, and I'd love to use it and get better myself.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. I haven't played pickleball. Have you guys played pickleball?
Of course. Come on,
Yeah.
Matt. Don't sleep on pickleball.
Fun. Fastest growing
Man,
sport in
yeah.
America.
It is. There's a market opportunity for you right now. You should do a smart pickleball. All right. Well, Leonard, thank you so much for joining. Reapply, please.
Good job, Leonard.
Yeah, very good. All right. We have one more. We have Learn House. Speaking to us from Learn House is Luciano. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, absolutely. All right, sir. Well, you have 2 minutes to present your company starting now.
You've probably heard the phrase, knowledge is power. Have you ever wondered, though, how does one get knowledge in the first place? One of the ways of getting knowledge is through learning tools and activities. And it turns out 70 million parents, just like me, collectively spend $19 billion per year trying to get our kids the right learning tools and activities. The problem is the way we do it now is by spending way too many hours searching through a gazillion websites or driving around through different stores. And after all that, we don't even know if we chose the right ones or whether kids are actually learning. The entire experience is broken, fragmented, and very frustrating. And one of the things I learned as CEO in a previous venture, helping more than 10,000 parents from more than 100 schools, is that I'm not alone in my suffering. Now imagine a future world where every parent has the power to easily get the right learning tools and activities for their child. I'm Luciano, CEO of Learn House. I'm also the father of 2 children, and I'm obsessed with building this future world. I love to learn and I love to build. That's why we're building machine learning for human learning. Another way to think about it is Kayak meets Netflix for kids' brains. Over the summer, we completed a pilot with 2 cutting-edge STEM providers in 1 school district, round 1 of our user experience testing, and a new partnership with the top-tier STEM educator network. We recently joined Techstars and are iterating on our MVP and go-to-market targeting Northern California. I invite you to join me in learning about the future of learning. Thank you.
Yeah, that was good. All right, Ross, let's start with you.
Yeah, so it's great to hear about this, and I'm a father of 1 right now that's 2 years old, and have another one in January coming. So it definitely is relevant and resonates. And I think there's a huge thing in both educational tech, ed tech, as well as in baby tech, if you will, or early childhood development tech, I could say, and it's very useful. So I think that 1, there is a market here. So it's great to hear that the passion and how you're a parent yourself and have worked in a previous career, it sounds like, to influence this world. I think leaning in a little bit more on that could help. And I said it on the last 2, so I'm going to stick with it. And maybe the consistency means something here. Is we really want to, at the earliest stage, which you're the earliest stage. Sounds like you're in a beta pre-product, if you will. Haven't hit product market fit. It's why we want to connect with you. And so I would want to hear more about you and your background. You quickly glazed over 10,000 students, I think you said, or children. That's a lot. Like, what was it? It would be really good to capture that moment and solidify or crystallize what that was. So if I'm the investor, I'm thinking like, okay, why is it you that is, because we all, idea is like maybe 10% of it, give or take. They're actually 90% execution, right? So it's really all about why you in the earliest days. So I think that's one big part of it. The other thing is, there's 2 more comments I have. What the product actually does. Get a little bit more into the specifics and the detail there. You kept it a bit high level. I know it's a short period of time with not much time to prep for it, which might make sense, but getting into the real details so I could start to visualize this product. And I could start to say, like, would I use this product? Can I find value in this product? Do I see others using this product? Because I still didn't fully grasp what the product actually is. The last piece of feedback is make sure that you're being genuine and you're not speaking off of a script. And again, this may come from this setting, but I think when we walk into an investor meeting, especially in the early stages, it's fair to say it's nerve-wracking. We all have imposter syndrome, no matter who you are in life. If we could do whatever we all need to do to break that and to have a normal conversation with somebody as you would if you sat down at a coffee table or at a coffee shop with somebody at a table, that's the setting that the investor is looking for. And I think the setting that you, then the operator or the founder CEO will perform best. So it's really like, the exhale before, breaking the ice in the beginning, whatever it is, to have that nonchalant conversation where we can now really engage. I felt a little bit like you were reading from the script and presenting a little bit more. Makes sense on this format, but overall it was great to hear.
All right, Ross, you took up a good chunk of time there. Sorry. So Karan, you got a few minutes left.
It's all right. I think Ross made a ton of good points. I'll say at one point you mentioned the analog of Kayak meets Netflix. Like, that's great. Like, make it super easy for me to understand what this is. To Ross's point, I still don't completely get it, but like the analog at least helped me understand sort of what I'm looking for, some element of a marketplace for parents to find the right educational tools, et cetera, for their kids. So very cool. Yeah, look, I think it's the format and setting. I think both of us who are being, Ross has pitched a lot, I've been pitched a lot, and vice versa. You want to try to get that authentic connection. But I think you did a good job for this format in 2 minutes. The storytelling of it had us engaged. I'd say if you're in the situation again, as much as you can make it feel less scripted, even if you're saying exactly the right words, that's helpful.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was great. I agree with that. Very good. Well, to the three of you, thank you so much for participating today. And Ross and Karan, thank you so much for joining, and please keep in touch. And until next time. And remember, guys, we're at TechCrunch Disrupt next week. So come join us. Just drop me a note on Twitter if you need tickets. I'll see what I can do. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye now.